Tonight on Brewmasters.
So good news, Italy project's moving forward.
Oh, really?
I get a call from the godfather himself, Mario Batali, to collaborate on the beers for his rooftop pub at Italy, the giant Italian food emporium.
Giant space?
Yeah.
You get 32 square feet to make all your beer, all right?
Did I lose at Rochambeau or something?
So I'm off to Italy to create recipes, hunt for ingredients, and chat beer with the locals.
Me, beer, mountain, go, time, eat, fun.
At our Milton Brewery, we're weeks away from completing part of our $4 million expansion. That is, if Mother Nature cooperates.
I'm swimming in beer.
A great craft beer begins with a great idea.
You want to be where it's at? Join me in this vat.
I'm Sam Calagione, founder of Dogfish Head Brewery. My team and I make off-centered ales for off-centered people.
We brew it, we ferment it, we cool it, bottle, keg, ship, rinse, and repeat.
Well, I'm swimming in beer.
You know, I think beer was a little bit late to the party in terms of getting its respect in the context of great food. There's Achilles heels that exist in the wine world in terms of pairing with food that don't exist for beer. There's a beer that works with every single food out there.
Refreshment.
And really it wasn't until the craft brewing renaissance in this country that foodies and wine lovers saw that beer could have all the flavor and all the complexity of wine and could pair with food as well as any wine could. So our company was really built from the ground up as beer, but beer in the context of food.
This philosophy is especially important today because there's a new beer idea in the air, and it's going to be all about the food. Located just outside the Flatiron Building in Manhattan, restaurateurs Mario Batali and Joe Bastianich have opened Italy, a 50,000 square foot Italian food destination.
Italy is modeled after a store that exists in Torino that is already perfect. So all we have to do is not mess it up. We're producing things in America and selling them here. We're also bringing some of the slow food greatness from the Italian peninsula.
The crown jewel is going to be a rooftop Italian brew pub, or birreria. Mario and Joe want Dogfish Head to collaborate with 2 Italian brewers to create signature beers for Italy that'll be brewed and served right on site.
Although wine and food pairings have been trendy and hip, I think now this whole brew culture and beer-friendly food and food-friendly beer is kind of the next wave.
This project really hits home because we got a little bit of Italy right here at Dogfish. Bocce courts.
Time for beer, Sam.
Oh, that's right, it is. It's 4:30 almost. You get 4 minutes, Connie. I want to hear typing over there.
All departments shut down early on Fridays, so we can drink some beer and play some bocce.
White line, that's a great throw, Sergio.
Good job, sir.
That's really just an excuse to drink beers and play a sport that you don't have to put your pint glass down to play.
All kidding aside, this Italy brew pub is a huge project for Dogfish Head, and the first person I need to speak to is Floris, our brewmaster.
There he is. Floris.
Hey.
There you are. What you working on?
Not much.
So good news, Italy project's moving forward.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in New York.
That is exciting.
So I'm going to go up and meet with Mario and Joe soon, but some of the things that you've got to kind of help me with are training program for Brooks. He's over there working with Leo now.
Brooks is the brewer that we want to engage for New York.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we're going to do like the old world apprenticeship thing where he'll spend time at each of our 3 breweries training.
I like that.
Yeah.
Then we get a good feel. The one thing I think we do need to be careful about is at the moment we are getting the building ready to receive bright beer tanks and then later on fermenters.
What Floris is worried about is that Dogfish Head is just a couple weeks away from a major phase in our expansion.
We have 8 new tanks coming, 4 of which are going to look exactly like what you see there.
8 new tanks are coming in all the way from Germany, 4 of which are bright beer tanks. These are the tanks that hold finished beer that's waiting to be bottled.
The only way we can get those things in the building is to peel the roof back, set them in with a crane.
This is all part of a giant $4 million capital improvement project here at Dogfish.
Tank 101 will be right here.
101.
So 102 will be where the lift is. Exactly.
This is then kind of the space for the yeast cellar.
Our new bright beer cellar will hold 4 650-barrel tanks. We're also putting in a brand new yeast management area for propagating more yeast.
Greg, is this why we're changing the roof?
This is exactly why we're replacing the roof.
We do have a long way to go.
Our new bright beer tanks will not only double our capacity, but because they're automated, we'll be able to put out a much more consistently delicious end product.
going to 205th Ave, it's right by Flatiron Building.
I head up to meet Mario Batali and Joe Bastianich, and as it turns out, they're doing some construction of their own.
Hey, guys.
There he is. Whose voice is that?
There's a lot going on
The
in here.
Brewmeister.
Good to see you, John. It's been a while. It's great to see you, Mario. How you been?
Could be better.
Wow. So this is upstairs.
This is the layout of the floor that we're standing on. Giant space.
Yeah.
You get 32 square feet to make all your beer, all right?
Did I lose at Rochambeau or something? So I'll tell you what, this is the tightest commercial brewery.
In the world?
It's gonna be up there.
In true New York style, great things happen in small spaces.
This rooftop birreria, or brew pub, is gonna have seating for about 200 people. There's gonna be 3 brewing tanks and 2 double fermenters, and all the beer will be naturally carbonated, or cask conditioned, right on site. Oh, and all the beer that comes out of this brewery has to be world class to sit alongside Mario's world class food.
So the menu's done.
Really?
And I've actually written all the recipes. So the flavors are going to be of the older times. There's the pork shoulder hams, which is one concept of the menu. Yeah. Then there's homemade sausages, and then there's grilled meats or fish, and then salads, and then, in my opinion, what really goes really well with beer, there's a whole mushroom menu, there's a whole cheese menu, and a whole salumi menu.
Whoa, that's a lot of great food.
Hopefully us brewers can represent. Hopefully us brewers can hold up to this to level of standards.
When you come up here, what kind of beer, what are you inspired to drink?
The goal is to make beers that are in perfect keeping with what you guys do, food, and also referencing Italian brewing tradition everywhere we can.
Oh, Sam is a mythical figure in the beer world, you know, and I think you can taste it every time you have a Dogfish Head beer. You understand why he's the best.
Did you hear that? My beer clock just went off.
What time would it be in Italy right now?
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Let's go drink some beers.
Taste. Chefs never
taste.
drink, we taste.
I mean taste, but we don't spit it out, do we?
Not unless we have to. Not unless it's no good.
We're gonna make 3 beers for the birreria at Italy. An English mild brewed with chestnuts, a classic Italian ingredient in beer, an American pale ale made with Italian wild thyme, and our first seasonal, a wheat beer with peppercorns.
Look at these crazy things. Can we hang with those?
Peppers, yeah, sure. These are Balinese.
So what's the difference between something like that versus your traditional?
Well, like a real pepper, like a black peppercorn, is the fruit of a tree. It's the drupe of a pepper tree called piperai.
So we're gonna be tasting Belgian white beer.
We're gonna put pepper in the beer, is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
First, we try these long Balinese peppercorns in some Dogfish Namaste. Like Namaste, the peppercorn beer for Italy will be a wit beer, so dosing it with some of the pepper is going to give it a good hint of that final flavor.
Cheers, guys. Thank you for allowing us brewers to get our peanut butter and your chocolate for this project.
This is the first beer, sip of beer had on the
rooftop?
Birreria.
It's good.
Tastes good before, it tastes good now too.
Does it? Is there a difference? Are you tasting much difference?
Not a lot.
Definitely on the nose, but not so much in the palate right now.
Yeah.
Beer is really, has a lot of craft in it. And there's a lot of creation and a lot of human input in the process of making beer, and it's very similar to cooking.
We then dose some Allagash white beer with some telecherry peppercorns.
Whoa.
Flank steak.
It already smells like a steak, right?
I like this pepper better, I think. What do you guys think, though?
Not even a comparison.
Really?
It's definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
What's really exciting is to have a collaboration with the whole brew world. Like, that's just never been part of my game. I've always drank beer. I grew up on a hop farm. But knowing and meeting these kind of Zen mastery dudes who have these incredible groupie followings and getting to meet and work with them is what's really exciting.
Well, thank you for inviting us crazy brewers into your world.
Dude, you are now in it, whether you like it or not.
With the opening of the Italy Birreria close at hand, Mario and I decide to meet here again in just 2 months so he can taste all 3 of the signature Italy beers. Coming up, I'm off to Italy to create the recipe for our first Italy brew. But the hunt for our ingredients is proving elusive.
I want to eat it, but it might kill us.
I hit the streets of Rome, eager to get started brewing some killer beer. But first, I have to settle a long-standing debate.
Check this out. Local gladiators outside the Coliseum. Hey, guys. I got a question. You guys look like locals. I just got to Rome. What's the better drink to have if you're in Rome? Should you drink beer or should you drink wine?
Wine, of course.
Beer. It's my man.
I say wine.
You say wine?
I say wine.
I'm with this guy. Take him, beer guy, beer guy.
I should have known. This debate always ends the same way, with a brawl. But as recently as a few years ago, beer wouldn't have even been in the equation.
Rome has been like an epicenter of wine culture since 200 BC, but There's definitely a movement afoot here in Rome to finally bring beer up to the same level of wine. This looks like a stained glass window. All the colors.
This is our cathedral.
It's beautiful. The bottles are always perfect and always so different.
My collaborators on the Italy project are two of the most well-known craft brewers in all of Italy, Teo Musso of Balladan and Leo De Vincenzo of Birro del Borgo. We meet up with the Pied Piper of the Italian craft brewing movement, Lorenzo de Bove, or Quasca, to chat about our project.
Theo was one of the pioneers in Italy to brew a beer thinking to the perfect pairing.
You make a beer especially for a food, right?
Because in Italy it's impossible to drink without eating, so.
It's possible with this project to bring the Italian brewer style with the food, the Italian food in New York. It's very, very, very important.
Now we just gotta make sure our beer doesn't suck. We just gotta make sure we make good beer. One little detail, good beer. I think we can do it.
I think so.
We're gonna formulate the recipe for the Italy Wild Thyme beer and brew the test batch so Mario can taste it and hopefully sign off on it. I'll also get to see Brooks Coretta in action at Leo's Brewery. Brooks is gonna be the brewer at the Italy Birreria. He's a young guy, just 28, and I'm curious to see if he has the chops.
Our reputation on a day-to-day basis is in Brooks' hands.
We need to go to the mountains for looking for these wild herbs for using in the beer.
The first thing we gotta do is hunt for the ingredients. We jump in the Jeep and head up to the countryside just outside Leo's Brewery in Borgo Rosso on a quest for the pungent and elusive wild thyme of Italy.
Today I think we go mountain climbing, right?
Yeah,
It's good for the mountain air is good for your head. When you have too many beers, the mountain air makes
For cleaning
for clean the head. I, embarrassingly enough, don't speak Italian, so I speak very simple, like Hulk English when I'm with my Italian brewer friends. Me, beer, mountain, go, time, eat, fun. And then I go back and talk to Mariah, and she's like, how was your trip? I'm like, me, Leo, Teo, mountain, fun, time, drink, fun. She's like, why are you talking like the Hulk? The big muscle.
Hulk Hogan.
Like Hulk Hogan.
That's incredible.
The hills are alive with the sound of music. You don't know?
I'm a modern.
Modern man?
I like avant-garde music, not this kind of.
Let's look there.
We find a huge variety of interesting herbs and fungi,
It smells like cheese almost.
but it seems like everything I like the smell of is potentially poisonous.
No, don't eat, but
Okay. I want to eat it, but it might kill us. No time yet, huh?
no time. Could be here, perhaps. And this is the idea, to share the typical ingredients from US, like American hops, with the typical spices coming from Italy. So this was the aim. This was our goal.
With no time on the mountaintop, it's time for us to move on.
Whoa.
Use your nose like dogs.
Follow your nose like a dog.
Yes,
This is it?
this is that.
It's aggressive, it's stronger than the one you use in the kitchen.
Wow, it's like a more smoky than American. Perfect? You think it's perfect for the beer?
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
We gotta make sure we use just enough. If we use too much, today we foraged like mountain men and got our time, and tomorrow we brew with the time. Mountain time, man. Lorenzo, you like this spice?
Yeah, yes, I think could be perfect for a beer to pair with grilled beef, grilled steak, grilled lamb.
And those are the dishes that in Italy are traditionally cooked with thyme?
Yeah.
I think we have enough, guys.
We head over to Leo's Brewery to clean the thyme and talk through our recipe for tomorrow's brew.
It's quite similar to oregano, perhaps, like as well.
Oh, yeah?
But it's just a crossing from oregano, wild mint, and thyme.
And thyme. So we think obviously a little darker than this.
Darker than this, okay. We can make amber or just... I think it's very, very exciting to create a beer with other brewers because you can exchange the ideas, and so you can also improve your experience in brewing.
And also, when it doesn't go perfect, you got 3 people to blame, which is nice. You can say, oh, I didn't want to do that. That other guy wanted to do that. He's crazy, that other brewer.
Back at Dogfish, construction is in full swing in preparation for our new bright beer tanks. But up front, our brewceptionist, Nora, is having a rather slow day.
Hey, Trey, it's me. Can you come down and help me with something for a sec? Okay, thanks. Bye. I am having trouble with my printer in there. Just move that thing. That's like this packing thing. I'm sorry, Trey. You know I love you, but I had to do that. Hey, John, can you help me with the box in there? Just move that thing out of the way, and I'll come in and help you.
Great Christmas. Great Christmas.
Can you help me move this?
Yeah. Yes? No, I'm sorry. We can't.
All kidding aside, our engineer Greg and his crew have a lot of work to do to put our bright beer cellar back together.
Well, today's the day of the big pour, the first pour here, the main reinforcement under where the new bright beer tanks are going to go. There's a rebar reinforcement grid underneath. That gives this concrete strength so it won't move, it won't bend. If you push on it, then it's going to push down in a large footprint. This is really the first, putting it back together part of the job. We've kind of turned the corner from tearing it apart, and now we're starting to put it back together.
My tasting with Mario Batali is right around the corner, so it's time to get brewing.
Doesn't this kind of look like sorcery with a giant witch's kettle?
It's trial by fire as all 3 head brewers look on while Brooks runs the brew house.
Brooks, did you break the pump?
Back in Rome, I'm looking forward to brewing up our first beer for Italy, a wild thyme beer.
My folks on both sides are Italian and come from Calabria and Sicily. And my great-grandmother had this grocery store in Massachusetts where she was known for her Italian sausages, but for her really good customers, she'd fill up generic jugs that they'd bring in with her homemade wine from the cellar. And I grew up watching my uncles and my dad make wine together, and I think that kind of influenced my decision to get into home brewing, which is kind of great, because that's why I'm here. I'm actually getting to make beer in Italy.
Just outside Rome at Leo's Birra del Borgo brewery, it's time to brew up the test batch of our wild thyme beer.
Guys, let's start mashing in.
Let's make some beer.
Brooks is on the...
Brooks is on the platform.
Yes.
Hello, Brooks. How we doing? Good?
Fine, how are you?
Good.
Brooks has been training at both Teo and Leo's breweries and will be headed to Dogfish in a couple weeks to train with us. I've spent time hanging out with Brooks, but this will be the first time I get to see him in action.
Okay, what's first step here? Where's the power button for this? No power button?
Okay. The power button?
There's power button?
3, 2, 1, go.
Wow, and we're making beer. Mashing in.
The first step of brewing is mashing in. That's where we mix water and malted barley. Heat it up, and you're left with a kind of oatmeal mash.
Doesn't this kind of look like sorcery with a giant witch's kettle? Like alchemy going on here, right?
Turning water into beer. It's kind of like some magic going on.
So this is the smallest commercial brewing system you've brewed, and then you've done
And it's my favorite one.
It's your favorite? Good, because this is the scale you're going to be rocking in New York. All right, I'll get out of your way. You show me what you do next.
power serve.
What would you do next?
I actually got into homebrewing about 3 years ago. About a year and a half ago, I was speaking with Leonardo, and he said, why don't you come brew at my brewery? And I said, yeah, why not? So I left my old job, and now I'm the happiest man in the world.
So Brooks came to this world as a beer lover first and home brewer and has no technical background on commercial brewing. It's just Leo, Teo, and I, kind of the old world tradition of apprenticeship moving into a vocation. He mashed in very well. Looks like phase 1 is done the right way.
I just need to understand why it's not working the small pump.
Brooks, did you break the pump?
No.
What the heck's going on over here? This is kind of the first day where 3 of us will be in his ear giving him some guidance, so we hope it's not too stressful for Brooks.
I do feel a little bit nervous. And now we're going to test the mash with iodine to see if all the starches have converted to sugars.
True or false? You need these 3 things to check for the starch.
For sure you need a pen.
You need a pen to write it down, but these things do you need?
No, not really.
Passed. Passed. You do not need these things.
The iodine turns black. We're not ready yet. What do you think, guys? Are we good to go?
It looks good to me.
Looks like we have full conversion. This means the yeast will have plenty of sugar to eat once the beer goes into the fermenter. We then rinse the grains to ensure all the sugars are extracted and filter the beer so we're left with wort. We transfer the wort into the boil kettle where we add our specialty ingredients. In this case, 2 different types of American hops and our Italian wild thyme.
Right, Teo has to go catch a plane, so he does first edition Warrior.
Teo does a first hop edition with a variety called Warrior.
Teo, I see you.
We say goodbye to
September.
Teo, and about half an hour later, I do the second hop edition, which is a 50-50 blend of Warrior and Cascade hops. The thyme is added at the end of the boil because we want its oils to contribute mostly to the aroma or smell of the finished beer.
Okay, the thyme goes in now. It's your turn to add something to the bowl.
Brooks seems to be all over it. He's keeping track of when and how much we need to add of each ingredient and taking copious notes to ensure that this recipe is repeatable. As Brooks instructed, Leo adds the thyme. After the boil, the wort then gets sent to the fermenter. We cool the young beer, add yeast, and let it ferment for 2 to 4 weeks to reach our target alcohol of 5% ABV.
Here you go, sir.
I do the first bit. It's always nice when the visiting brewer shows respect to the daily operations guys and helps with pulling out the mash. Sorry, buddy. So far, so good.
Thank you so much.
All right, you got all right, buddy?
Thank you, sir, for saying that.
Good seeing you. All right, guys. Good luck with the rest of the brew. See
Bye-bye.
ya.
Thank you.
Thanks. Later.
I've had a great time in Italy. I got to hang out with 2 of my favorite Italian brewers and work on a beer for an amazing project. Now I'm headed to Germany to meet up with Floris, our brewmaster, so we can check out our brand spanking new bright beer tanks. All of our beers for Italy will be cask beers, which means they'll go through a second fermentation in the cask. We do the same process in a bottle called bottle conditioning with a few of our beers at Dogfish Head.
I need parts. There are no parts anywhere. Where the hell are they? I have nothing. I have this.
Brian Selders is working on a bottle conditioned beer called Namaste, which is what Mario and Joe drank during our initial rooftop meeting.
This is our take on a Belgian wit beer, and it's flavored with lemongrass, coriander, and organic dried orange slices. Traditionally, these beers are bottle conditioned, and we want to stay as true to that as possible.
The process is the same for both bottle and cask conditioning. After you ferment the beer in a standard fermentation tank, you send the beer to the cask and add additional sugar and yeast before plugging it up. The yeast eats the sugar and creates CO2, thus producing a naturally carbonated beer.
Today, what we're doing to get this beer ready for bottle conditioning is adding a good, healthy dose of sugar. We're going to get the sugar in there early just to make sure that the beer is ready to go. And then when we receive confirmation that the bottle line's been turned over and it's ready to run, that's when we'll pitch the fresh yeast.
It's definitely tricky to get the right amount of sugar and yeast into the bottle for the second fermentation, and at Italy, it'll be Brooks's job to get it right. Romans initially thought beer was barbaric, but later they believed it was a gift from the goddess Ceres that could make them stronger. Cerveza, the Roman term for beer, lives on today as cerveza in Spanish. Back at Milton, our construction crew is hard at work making way for the incoming tanks.
When those tanks arrive, we have to have a place to put them. There's no such thing as park them in the parking lot. That doesn't exist.
Because these tanks are so huge, they have to peel back the roof so they can be lowered in. The crew is working in sections to avoid any major weather that could come in and jeopardize the quality of the beer. But no matter how careful you are, Mother Nature always calls the shots.
We've got a bit of a construction delay at the moment due to the rain. The roof is obviously wide open at this point. We're a couple of weeks away from receiving the bright beer tanks.
As you can see, between the seams and some of the tough wrap falling down with this puddled up, ripped it apart, it does threaten us to keep running. We have a few spots that compromise the integrity of the product, so we do have to stop running at times.
Unfortunately, Mother Nature calls and puts a stop to work.
We've been running between the raindrops, trying to keep materials out of the wet weather and dampness. It's been pretty rough.
While the crew struggles to keep the rain out of our beer, Brooks has come over from Italy for his training with Brian Selders and John Carpenter at our brew pub.
Hey, Brooks. Hey, Brooks. Hello. Good morning.
Like Leo's small brewery in Italy and our system here at the pub, Italy will be a very small, very manual system. This means the brewer has to be in complete control of the entire brewing process and know all the quirks of the brew house.
Cool. So, Brooks, this is what we're doing, pal. So, there's a valve, an elbow, a valve, a T, a valve that's already there, That's a valve, that's a valve, that's a T, that's an elbow, that's a valve. And there's a thermometer. Think you got it?
Yeah.
Brian and Brooks will brew 2 beers together in 2 days. Today, Brian's doing most of the actual work while giving Brooks a crash course on our system.
Our mash tun is ready. I mean, as like ghetto as it looks, it's really a good mash tun.
Today, they're making a test batch of the Chestnut Mild beer, which Mario will taste and hopefully sign off on.
We're gonna do the stirring. Okay. Just while you're stirring, pay attention to what I'm doing because tomorrow I will be your stir.
While the grains are mashing in, the guys boil the chestnuts separately to extract as much flavor as possible. These chestnuts were hand-cracked by Leo at his brewery in Italy and shipped over just for this test batch.
Is your side hot? Yeah. Look at this. Yes, if you're a sissy. You want me to take this side?
Brian makes friends easy.
For today, my expectations of Brooks are pretty simple and try to pick up as much as he possibly can. John, would you be a dear and pull out your hose? And we are now ready to send our wort to fermentation. Brooks, can you stop standing on those hoses, please?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
With the chestnut beer safely in the fermenter, the only thing left is cleanup.
Just so you know, Brooks, you're doing this tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our next step is to just clean up this area a little bit, making it look nice to make a mess tomorrow.
The next day, all eyes are on Brooks as he sets out to make the test batch for the peppercorn wit beer.
Never actually really brewed in the United States, and things work a little different. I am kind of nervous.
Sorry, I'm waiting on you, pal. Okay. He's walking into a strange brewery that is very, very quirky. It's a pretty high-profile project. I don't envy him one bit.
Brooks mashes in without a hitch. Well, almost. But overall, he seems like he's getting the hang of our brew house.
Choke it back. That looks good.
While the beer is transferring into the boil kettle, Brian and Brooks grind the peppercorns and the coriander, a classic ingredient in wit beers. They hydrate the spices with warm water so the flavors release more easily into the beer.
We're gonna run this for 5 minutes, let it rest for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll knock out. All right, now we break the down. Yep.
After the boil, they send the beer to the fermenter
That's gonna be great.
and sneak a sample for testing and tasting.
Oh, that smells fantastic.
Brooks checks the sugar levels to ensure the yeast will have enough to eat in the fermenter.
What did we win, boss?
16.1.
Beautiful. Oh, I think he's got it. My boy has got it.
We are in the beautiful Bavarian town of Bergstadt. It feels like I fell out of the set of Sound of Music. And we're going to meet our friends at Siemens and see how they make our tanks.
This place is massive. These tanks are bigger than some people's houses. It's crazy to see all these tanks because when Dogfish started, we were using tanks that were more like the size of the trash cans in this place.
That's like a 50-gallon drum, and that would be 3 times as big as our original fermenters. Our original fermenters were about 15 gallon. That's ours?
Yep.
That's ours.
That's nice. That's how we're...
That is beautiful. This is one of the 4 Dogfish bright beer tanks that is going to get on a boat within a couple of weeks. When you consider how humble Dogfish has started equipment-wise, I'm really proud that we can make decisions like this. You know, we're trying to source the best ingredients from around the world. It's now time for us to step up and get world-class equipment.
At $100 grand a pop and built to pretty much last forever, these tanks are gonna kind of be like my family heirlooms.
You know, instead of my daughter getting a dowry or my son getting my watch, I'm gonna give them these tanks, and that's their inheritance.
I think a tank is much cooler than a watch.
I think, yeah, right? Always zip up and wear your rubbers. That's what I would say.
Welcome to Space Station 3.
The interior inspection is the most critical. Each tank is assembled using pieces of stainless steel welded together. These joints are the most susceptible to errors and need to be checked carefully for proper measurements and smoothness.
You want to do the measurement there?
That is the welding seam. In that area, we have to be less than 0.8.
Any number over 0.8, then we would not accept it.
Whoa, even better. That's even better.
Flores measures a few more spots, but these guys know what they're doing. The tank is spot on and ready to be shipped.
Do you just run and try and dive out the hole? You run towards it and just dive out?
Coming up, it's a big day here in Milton as our new tanks come flying in.
This is a culmination of a lot of work, all this for beer.
And later, I head to New York to get the blessing from Mario Batali.
Our prize on the line, trying these beers with him.
My tasting with Mario Batali for the Italy beers is just a couple weeks away, so it's time to start bottle conditioning the beers that Brian and Brooks brew. Brian pulls some of each of the Italy beers out of the fermenters and gets to work hand bottling them. To replicate the cask conditioning that will take place at the Italy Birreria, he doses each bottle with a small amount of sugar and yeast. The yeast will eat the sugar and produce CO2, naturally carbonating the beer. He hand caps each bottle and lets the yeast do its thing. These beers will bottle condition for about a week before I bring them up to Mario Batali for his blessing. Over in Milton, the big day has finally arrived. Our 4 new bright beer tanks are on their way. Greg assembles a giant crew of skilled workers to help hoist our tanks up over the building and down through the roof.
I've worked with some cranes, but not one this big. This is huge. They tell me that they can see it from 5 miles away. My goal is to get these tanks off the trucks and in the hole today. We've done everything we can in terms of preparing the work site inside to make everything go smoothly.
After hours of waiting around, the first tank finally pulls up.
Nora, this is Greg. The first tank is here, so if anybody wants to see it, it's just rolling up.
Wow.
It's a race against sunset, so the crew gets to work unwrapping and washing the first tank. When it's all prepped and hooked up to the cranes, it's time to lift it into place.
This smaller crane will pick up the legs. The larger crane will pick up the head or the top of the tank. And then the large crane will pull the tank vertical. Once the tank's vertical, then we can go ahead and elevate the crane up and swing out over the building and into the hole. This is a culmination of a lot of work, and then really, in a way, it's just the beginning. It's like raising the walls of a barn or a house. Looks like you did a lot, but now, you know, you got all the detail stuff to do. All this for beer.
The tank is placed on the pre-leveled footers, adjusted for plumb and level, and then welded into place. But just when it looks like they're making good time, Mother Nature rolls in to complicate things.
Today, the weather's turned a little bit. It was kind of sprinkling while we were doing this, and now it's turned into a pretty steady drizzle. That means it gets slick upstairs. Guys have got to guide these tanks in, and the steel work is slick, making things a little more dangerous.
If it starts pouring, we might have to just sit here and wait. It's kind of hard to weld them feet down in the rain. We can set the tank in there in the rain, but we can't cut it loose if it ain't welded down, so we can't have a tank falling over.
The most nerve-wracking part of my job is the wind. When we are hoisting the tanks, if it starts to sideload the boom, it could collapse the boom.
That's yours. Get away from that pipe.
With some patient and careful maneuvering, Greg and his crew get the last tank in place and welded.
Oh, this is a ton of relief. We had some obstacles to overcome. The delays cost us a day of crane time, and then we got into worse weather. But we did really well overcoming those challenges we had, and everything really went as smooth as I think I could have hoped for.
Next, the moment of truth as Mario Batali tastes all 3 of our Italy beers. With a crazy work schedule taking me to Italy and Germany, I'm now finally coming home to Delaware.
Either of us, we've been on the road, have seen the Bright beer tanks since we were in Germany together. And so the Brights are in place now. Let's check it out. Wow, this is all new here, too.
So this, and then there they are. That is beautiful.
This is the first ever indoor tanks that seem infinite. They just go off into infinity.
With the 2/3 that are in the building, and then 1/3
in the sky.
Totally sticks out.
This expansion is huge for Dogfish Head. Under the careful direction of Floris and Greg, our engineer, we've basically doubled our capacity for finished beer. But that doesn't mean we can take our eye off the ball just yet.
So once these 4 Bright tanks are functional, and we're planning on selling 140,000 barrels roughly of beer next year, what becomes our next bottleneck in production?
Here.
Yeast?
Yeast cellar.
And then bottling lines, and then uni tanks, and then it keeps going.
But the beautiful thing about bottlenecks is it's a circle.
Yeah.
Seasons come and go.
Yes.
Bottlenecks come and go.
It's very poetic. I'm gonna just hang out and stare at these tanks for a minute.
It's very poetic.
Today is the day we've been preparing for. Mario will taste the 3 beers that will make or break his brew pub at Italy.
We take a lot of pride in what we do at Dogfish, and I know Teo and Leo do as well, so our pride's on the line trying these beers with him. There he is.
What's up, dog?
Good morning, Mario. How you been? Oh, you're
I'm preparing things.
Wow. You know, Mario is kind of the dawn of Italian-American cooking here in New York. So having him try these beers and giving them his wave of approval will mean a lot for us. Kind of welcome us into the family kind of thing. By the way, I got I'm wearing the wrong, I'm sporting the wrong.
Dude, it's like stabbing me in the eye.
So you tell me what you want to try first.
Let's start with the lightest and go to the heaviest.
Okay. Whoa, hey! Wouldn't expect
Where's
that.
the Lusitania?
That wicked carbonation is bottle conditioning.
Right.
With bottle conditioning, it's going to give you finer bubbles than forced carbonation.
Right.
It's not as heavy on your stomach, so you get more of it.
Oh, cool.
First up, Gina, the Time Pale Ale we brewed at Leo's brewery outside of Rome.
You like?
I like it.
Do you get the time? It's not overpowered, or do you
No,
think?
the time is very delicate.
Yeah. More in the nose or the taste?
Yeah, it's more in the nose right now, but I mean, let me just take a little food.
These beers are designed to be drunk while eating Mario's food. The menu, among other great recipes, include 10 types of mushrooms, 10 cheeses, and 10 different sausages, a few of which we'll be sampling today.
That's delicious.
Now I get more time.
Yeah.
There's more time in the beer, because, right, it pushes it forward with the porky saltiness.
All right, so I'm most nervous for you to try the peppercorn one since you had a hand in that recipe.
I remember,
one.
yes.
Next, we have Sophia, our peppercorn wheat beer.
That is a new experience.
Yeah?
Delicious.
You like?
That's going to be the big hit.
Think
This
so?
is a big hit, I can tell you right now.
Finally, we pour Vanda, our young and dark chestnut beer.
Wow.
We pair it with a spicy sausage and a jalapeno pesto.
Does that work? Does it kind of put the fire out a bit?
No, it's just right. It joins the fire, but I think the meat and the beer match each other very well. I was actually worried that maybe the beer was going to overpower it, but clearly the lightness, the texture, the frothiness, the beers are perfect. You know what you're doing.
Oh my God.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you on
This
behalf
is
of Teo, Leo,
spectacular.
Brooks, everyone. And
This may become my favorite restaurant I've ever opened.
Really?
Yes.
I like hearing that. It's been really neat seeing him get into beer. I mean, he was already a beer lover, but seeing him get excited about this potential for beer to pair well with food has been really inspiring for me. Bam.
There you go.
All right, so I'm out of here.
I'm walking on air right now after a great tasting with Mario. But the real test for our beers and Mario's Beereria will be when it opens. That's when the public will decide whether all of our hard work paid off. Even though the restaurant isn't open yet, I still feel like I'm on top of the world, having made awesome beer with people I really respect.